What is going on, Broncos country? Welcome to the season finale of Bourbon, Broncos, and No BS. My name is Kev. I got David here with me. We might get Spotty here later on. I know he's traveling or whatever, important people do. I don't know. Jared is officially underway. We're not going to see him for a while, unfortunately. But we wish him all the best, and I'm not sure if he's going to tune in tonight or not. But if he does, Jared, happy sailing to you, good sir. We're going to talk a lot about the Broncos season. We're going to talk a lot about what to expect for this upcoming Broncos off season. We're going to take your questions. We're going to take your comments. And as you guys can see, scrolling across the bottom, we are announcing this year's fan appreciation episode to be January 30th, Tuesday at 7 p.m. You guys can tune in. We'll be doing, like we have in the previous years, a ton of giveaways. We're going to have special guests. And more importantly, we're just having a good time. So make sure you tune in for that. That being said, guys, let's get this show on the road and start talking about some Broncos. Here we go. Orange Weekly. Fans, brews, and Broncos news. Well, guys, fortunately, the Broncos season is over. David, how you doing, man?
You know, it comes so unexpectedly every year. You wait and you wait and you wait, and then it happens, and then the fall and winter are gone. Or the fall's gone and the winter's half gone, and your football season's just over. So,
this year was weird because, we opened up with the Raiders, and we just knew the next time we saw the Raiders, it's going to be the end of the season, and it's like, here we are playing the Raiders again. Like, what happened? You know what I mean? So it flew by. Mm-hmm. There was a lot that happened. And definitely, we're going to talk about that. We're not really going to talk too much about the Raiders game in particular because that was just gross. It was just, is what it is. So we'll talk about, all the other stuff going on. So, David, let's just start with it, man. What an interesting year. Talk about ups and downs. We were talking about it last week on the show. Previous years, it's been like, the ups are all at the beginning of the season before the season starts. And then the season starts and it's downhill from there. This year started that way and then took a really interesting turn with that 5-game win streak. And then it went downhill again, So let me just kind of start with this big question to you, man. How would you grade the Broncos season?
81.
B minus. Okay.
B minus. Because I'm an easy grader and I don't have the heart to give a C plus. But you'd like 2 points away from a C plus. So just be aware of that.
Okay.
Everybody
is close. Listening.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Very close. What about you?
Because I was going to say C plus. That was honestly my feedback. So, I mean, to hear you say that, I mean, I think we're pretty close in everything that happened. But yeah, I mean, what else did you think kind of goes into that grade of yours, if you will?
Well, I mean, it's everything you talked about, right? It's the start of the season where you have all this optimism with Sean Payton, and he feels like he's going to be able to revitalize Russell Wilson, and he comes in talking big about his expectations for the team and about the last coaching staff, and then you fall to 1-5, including a loss to that coaching staff that you went out and said very publicly bad things about in a way that usually coaches don't do about each other in the NFL.
Nope.
And so, you go from that to the elation of the 5-game win streak, including some, of course, some teams that were really good. Obviously the Chiefs, who have, stumbled and bumbled their way into the playoffs this year. It's true, but they still got Pat Mahomes, man. So you've got a win against the Chiefs. You've got a win against the Bills on the road in primetime. Signature wins. You've got a win against the Packers, who ended up in the playoffs. It's the Browns too, although they didn't have that Joe Flacco magic going on. Good Lord, who saw that coming?
Joe Flacco, I tell you what, that guy just annoys me. And to see all the crap that happened in Denver, And then he goes off and he goes from sitting on his couch to just winning games in dramatic and huge fashions.
Yep.
I was like, couldn't you do half of that while you were in Denver? Just half of that,
Where's our Flacco magic, Joe? Where's our Flacco magic? Y'all know we believed in you. Anyway, we're getting off the top.
Yeah.
And then, just kind of finishing the season with such a soft squelch, really, just a really disappointing, like, you could have made it worth our while and lost a couple more games if this is what you were going to do and crack us into that top 10 on a draft pick. But, you had a 5-game win streak. You finished the season 8-9. You had the chance to finish the season with a winning record at the end of the year for the first time in I don't know how many years it's been now. So that lifts us back up to a B-.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. I mean, the wins that we did have, you're talking about those huge wins. I mean, if you're looking at, a reason to be positive moving forward, yeah, the record shows 8-9, but you look at those wins that we did get. It would have been nice to beat the Raiders and get that monkey off our back, but whatever, it didn't happen. But we're beating teams that are going in the playoffs, and we're going to see teams next year that are, playoff bound this year. And next year's schedule is interesting. I'll pull that up for us here later on. Because remember, guys, with the change in the, now it's a 17-week schedule, the Broncos are going to have an extra away game next year instead of an extra home game like they had this year. So that's definitely going to play into things, just because I don't think they played as well on the road, throughout the season. But we do have instances like the Bills game there where we went up there and we showed out, and we did when we took care of business, right? So let's see, Sean, how you doing, man?
Yeah.
Sean's first season figuring out how to fix the shitstorm we had developed into, and he breaks even basically. Yeah. So did we see improvement, David? Did we see improvement under Sean Payton this year as we have from previous years?
Oh, clearly. On offense, they were not good, but there was a reversion to average on offense this year. They did not become a good offense at any point during the season. They became an interesting offense during some games in the season, and at other times they were not. But they reverted to average back from the absolutely horrible unit that they went out there last year. And a good portion of that, I think, is because of coaching. I think that we are absolutely, to Sean's point, going to see Payton implement his system this season. And by system, I really mean more in a personnel way than I do in a scheme on the field kind of a way. I think we are going to see maybe some dramatic roster turnover this offseason. I think we are going to see Sean Payton get his guys in here. I think that you may see players like Cortland Sutton, like Justin Simmons, who have been longtime faces on this Broncos team. You may see them depart for other pastures as Sean Payton tries to, gets a second off season, really molds this team into what his vision is going to be. I think the George Payton talk at this point is a little bit superfluous because I think whether he's here or not, Sean Payton is going to be making the personnel decisions in free agency and in the draft. And yeah, I think it's going to be a very much of a Sean Payton offseason, for better or for worse.
Well, and I think that's for the better. We needed a guy like Sean Payton who has the experience of getting to the top, who knows how to run a team, who has shown year in and year out over his career that he knows how to win and how to get to that highest level, right? And so being able to bring a guy in like that and then saying, this is your team, make the decisions that you need to make. And that's what we're going to see this offseason. You're right. I think there might be a surprise 1 or 2 trades that are going to have a lot of people really pissed off because we've come to know and love these players. Right. But when you're looking at rebuilding a franchise, man, you're going to have to let go of some of those players to bring in the people you want and the people you need in order to execute your vision for the team. And, we haven't had that kind of depth of experience in coaching staff, until recently. and to see that the front office is totally behind Sean Payton and all of it, and as well is a huge relief. There doesn't seem to be any major battles of struggle of, no, this is, I'm in charge, I'm the GM, you're just the coach, shut that, sit down, shut up and listen to me kind of thing. And I think hearing from the owners today during the postseason press conference they did, Greg Penner, essentially said, we're as frustrated and as impatient as the rest of you Broncos country. He said, we're feeling it too. And we want this team to succeed. And I think that is also just another major departure from what we've seen from, the ownership group, or that you want to call them that we had before. And the whole trustee thing and that whole mess that it was. So I think this organization's moving in the right direction. Obviously, we would have liked it to be a whole lot faster, kind of like what the Texans have done,
Sure.
Head coach, brand new head coach, brand new quarterback, and we're in the playoffs. Woo!
Well, let's roll right into that. I mean, let's do it. Let's take the discussion head on, because we just had a question from Jerry about it. Longtime member of Team Puffball and a longtime viewer of the show. Wow, high salute to you, Jerry. Quarterback, I have no idea. Guys, I don't have any idea what could happen with the quarterback position this year. You've got a 12th overall pick, which to me says you're not in range to get a top 3 guy, obviously, in this draft.
Sure.
You are in range to trade up for that guy, and not be talking about 3 first-round picks to get up there.
Yep.
You're talking about 2. For sure, you're going to have to trade 12 and a first-round pick next year if you want to get into the top 5 to get a quarterback this year.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have the discussion, Kev. Let's do it.
It's messy because, we're looking at the draft, but there's other factors and just rumors that are coming out today that are saying, Sean Payton and even Russell Wilson are agreeable to the idea of Russ coming back. And I'm telling you what, if Russ comes back, he's not going to be on the bench as a backup. If he comes back, he's a starter. So are we going to continue to ride with Russell Wilson after seeing kind of what needed to transpire in Sean Payton's offense to make it work with with Russell Wilson? Or do we go out in free agency and get someone like Justin Fields, a veteran who's still on the young side, but has that experience and we know what he can do? The question is, would he fit into the Sean Payton system? And then we have all these, 3, 4, 5 names of quarterbacks that are entering the draft that, Broncos fans are talking about. I mean, the big ones are McCarthy and Bo Nix, right? And Penix Jr. Well, there are 3 big names right there. So, man, you're talking about a uncertainty at the quarterback situation. I don't think we've had this level of uncertainty before, where now we have that 3rd edition of, well, will Russ be there? It seemed like they hated each other. They got really pissed at each other. And now they're like, no, we could maybe make it work. We don't know yet. We'll see. It's like, wait. What is happening?
No, here's the thing. I kind of disagree with you here, Kev.
Okay.
I think that if you do see Russell Wilson back here next year in a Broncos uniform, and there will be uniform talk, guys. We saw the Reddit leaks.
Yeah.
There will be uniform talk. Stay tuned for that. But I think that the way the Sean Payton-Russell Wilson relationship ended this year, I think the only way you see Russell Wilson in a Broncos uniform next year is if he is coming off the bench as your backup quarterback. And frankly, at that point, you're really just as well off keeping Stidham and doing it and having him be your guy, your bridge guy, right? I get it. I understand. But at that point, you're not doing yourself or your franchise any favors by keeping Russell Wilson on the roster at that price. It's dead money if you cut him, but at that point, you're probably just better off parting ways, saying the relationship is over, and letting him do what he wants to do for the end of his career, and having a complete roster reset, or at least a quarterback room reset in that regard, right? That's my feeling about it. So I do think there is a universe maybe where Russ is the backup quarterback next season, but I think it's much more likely that he's just off the team. if that was going to be
I really hope Stidham isn't the starter next year. I get when you're doing a rebuild and if he has to be a bridge guy, but we've seen what he can do. Like I think what we saw the last 2 weeks was peak Stidham. He's okay. He's not terrible. He's a guy you would want as a backup, just to be able to put out there if your quarterback goes down and he's not going to be the reason you lose the game. He's going to at least put you in a position or, to keep the defense in the game, keep the offense at least somewhat moving, whatever the case is. But he is not the guy to be the starter. And I appreciate his enthusiasm and his belief in himself when he comes out and says, I could be that guy. But he doesn't pass the eye test. It's like, no, I don't think he could, dude.
No, if you see Stidham out there as your week 1 starter in Denver, I believe it is because they have a first round draft pick on the roster at that point. That's what I'll believe.
For sure.
I think that it's just, there's so many ways to take this conversation, right? Because we could talk about the fact that Sean Payton has never developed a quarterback before. And we can talk about what he wants from a quarterback and how we fit these draft prospects with what he wants from a quarterback, right? Whatever you believe about the Russell Wilson benching, guys, I believe this is an absolute fact because I think I saw it on the field all season long. That benching at least partially arose from the fact that Sean Payton was frustrated that Russell Wilson wouldn't play in his offense or didn't know, or couldn't execute his offense if he was playing in it, right? So that is going to be his priority in finding a new guy, right? Whether that's a veteran or whether it is a guy that he grooms from the ground up. And we can talk about the veteran options, right? You've got your Kirk Cousinses out there. But I mean, at that, what are you doing for your franchise at that point? Are we just recycling the same old argument that we're a quarterback away from competing when we're not? And I hate that. I want to drop. The one we talked about it in the last show that I was on. The position group that is most set on this offense is the offensive line, right? And that is how I think you turn around an offense by dropping in a young quarterback, is if you have the offensive line set, is if you have, your guys who are coming back and all starting for a second year under the same coach, they've gelled. Shout out Ayla. You've got Chris Manhertz under contract for another season to come be that 6th O lineman, and then you drop a young quarterback behind that to me, and then see what you've got. And let him develop on the field. Let him get the reps. Let him, see what you've got when you've got it, and go from there. I can't see us going that veteran route again. I really don't want to see it, Kev.
No, it's as easy as this, right? When patterns emerge, you need to follow the patterns, right? And what pattern do the Broncos have? Their pattern is they only win Super Bowls with quarterbacks that are drafted by the Colts. So it's simple. Anytime the Colts draft a quarterback, it doesn't matter what round in, we make a play for him, right? We say, we want that guy. You guys wanted him? No, we want him, right? Bring him over here. And then good things happen, right? I agree.
I have heard that, like, a team calls Andrew Luck every month to see if he's just going to come out of retirement. And I'm sure the Denver Broncos have called Andrew Luck at a certain
multiple
point.
times. I'd be surprised if he doesn't have him blocked yet.
You're right. Yeah.
It's like those telemarketers, those scam calls. They're just like, no, I recognize this number. I see you.
Yeah. And Ziggy, I have to say, Ziggy, I disagree with your point about Sean Payton's offense earlier, but I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, no, I disagree with this point. I would say that, and I can't see the argument, and respect to Spotty. I'll shout out to Spotty, who's not here on the show with us. I'd love to be having him on the show right now, because he would be active in this conversation for sure. And I know that he has all season been kind of down on the Sean Payton offense, to put it lightly. I don't see it, guys. Sean Payton was one of the best offensive innovators in this league for over a decade. And to tell me that he dropped out of football for a year, and now he can't do it anymore, I don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm but just that's my gut feeling about it.
I don't think you are, because you look at his record: 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. Under Sean Payton, the New Orleans Saints all finished first in the NFC South 4 years in a row. And that was just a few years ago. In 2021, they finished second. They still had a winning record. They finished second. So you're looking at 5 really good recent years to show that Sean Payton knows what to do after he has time to build a team up and get his players in place and get them that experience. And you're right. The biggest concern, the biggest question mark is, can he develop a quarterback? But I think when you're at a level of Sean Payton, his expertise, it's almost like you surround yourself with the right people knowing how to do that, and you lean on them and their experience in doing that, and you bring in your expertise, and it should work out, right? Unless the player just doesn't work out, and that's the draft for you. You never know what's going to happen with them, right? So I'm not anywhere close to saying that Sean Payton's offense sucks. It'd be one thing if it was year in and year out of, second or third or fourth in whatever division he was in before, never had a winning record. Things just never looked good. And then we brought him in and said, yeah, this will be better. Right. And that, there's a reason we paid a whole lot of money and gave up that draft capital to go get Sean Payton. So for people out there who are saying we need to fire Sean Payton, I'm sorry, guys, that just ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen anytime soon.
No,
so
stop.
just save the time of typing that out, because it's just not going to happen, right? There's so many other things that are going to happen before Sean Payton goes. But if we can get a young quarterback, and that's what I'm saying is, if we go veteran, I don't want a Tannehill like Sean, you were saying, a buddy was saying we should get Ryan Tannehill, and then drafting a quarterback as well. No, we're not going to. No, if we draft a quarterback at 12, he's going to be the starter. And I would say that's where you see us keep Stidham as the backup, right?
Well, that's what Ziggy's saying. If we go that route, we might as well keep the vet that we have. Right. So no, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I better go wake Drew Brees up. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing too. If you watched Sean Payton coach the corpse of Drew Brees through those final years in his career, and still take that team to the playoffs every year, it was something to see. All right. So all right. So I think we've covered. Do you think we've covered the quarterback conversation for now?
I think so. I mean, for everyone watching, don't forget that during the offseason, we're going to be pushing out content when it comes to free agency, when it comes to the draft. As things develop, we'll be letting you know and giving you our takes and everything like that. So just make sure everything is so early right now. The season just ended for us a couple days ago, that everything right now is just rumor, and we really have no idea what direction the Broncos are going to go. What happens in free agency obviously will be a huge tell for what we're going to do in the draft. But I would imagine, if I was a betting guy, that you would see the Broncos make more moves in free agency to get someone like a pass rusher. Maybe, another corner or safety, to replace, if we get rid of any of those guys, like if we lose Simmons, to whatever. And we're going to build the team up that way. Maybe another running back to help out Javonte Williams. Maybe we don't keep Samaje Perine or something. I don't know. But I don't think you're going to see us make a huge play for quarterback there. I think this is the good time to build up the team through the free agency, and then through the draft, go at quarterback. But again, guys, we could sit here and talk about it for hours and just be like, at the end of the day, we don't know. We don't know. There's a good question here. Let me go back to it from Jerry. Heard we're talking about bringing Von Miller back. I would say the only way you're going to see Von Miller back is if he comes back to sign a one-day retirement contract with the Broncos. I feel bad for the guy. You saw his production this year, and the injuries that he's had. It's just not working out. So,
take all the off the field stuff away from it. He was a healthy scratch in Buffalo several times in the end of the season. So I think Von Miller's career on the field is over. I don't think that's good. Like you said, we may see him sign that contract to retire a Bronco, but I think that will be the end of his participation as a Bronco.
For sure.
Yeah.
Clayton, how you doing, good sir? Good to see you here. Gary says Kev Dan for coach and David for QB. I put you in at quarterback. I would. I trust you.
I don't, and I wouldn't. And good luck to you guys with that. I appreciate the faith. I really do. But I will also point out that I am positive that, those hypotheticals
Yes.
where you get, there's $10 million on the line. You get 10 tries. Can you throw an NFL ball 10 yards? No, I cannot. No. Guys, 0 yards, -3 yards, maybe negative. And no, I'm like negative a lot of yards. It's a sack on every play. Back to the original conversation, which we're shifting gears a little bit. I did want to mention to your point about free agency. They did ask in the end of the year press conference today about free agency. Sean Payton and George Payton both indicated they did not think the team would be big spenders in free agency on the first day, which I can see. Especially if they're going to eat all that Russell Wilson dead money this offseason. They will not have the money to be big players in free agency. So, you're going to see some second-level signings, and you're going to see a lot of guys who are on the roster get run back, if possible, at discounts, because there are some guys who are going to need to take some pay cuts in order to stay. All right, moving forward.
So we've talked a lot about the offense.
Yes.
But as Anthony asks, what does the defense need? And I'm going to start with this question. Look, I'm going to give props to Vance Joseph for turning the defense around, especially after, the game that Jared loves to talk about, the Miami game and the 70 points that were dropped on us and all that fun stuff. And we all, even me, sat here and said, this guy needs to go now, right? Turn the defense around, at least for that 5-game win streak. A little, the last few games of the season, it just seemed like the defense had no gas left. But so I think the question starts with, when you're looking at defense, did Vance Joseph do enough to warrant being your guy moving forward for the defense?
Probably. Because honestly, I think if they were going to fire him, they'd probably be fired.
It'd been.
Yeah. So.
But was that the right call?
I'm for giving it one more year. The 70-point game is such an aberration, and then just as much of an aberration is getting all of those turnovers in all of those games. Yeah. So let's see what happens next year, when I think, like the offense did this year, both of those things will revert back to average a little bit, and we'll see that over the course of a season. But I will say, and we are going to bring him back, we do need a defensive line. We've got to have depth on the defensive line. DT,
that run defense this year was
real bad.
A killer.
Absolutely.
A killer for us.
No, absolutely. And I don't know if it was scheme and player related or what was going on there. But man, it was brutal. And frankly, the defensive line was not good enough at creating pressure on a regular basis either. So inside rush, outside rush, interior defensive line, defensive ends. I want more bodies. I want more and different bodies there.
Yep. Look, Cooper and Benito definitely stood up when Frank Clark and Randy Gregory were let go. It could have been a situation where we had no pressure on the quarterback whatsoever for the rest of the year. And I think those guys did really good with their abilities, right? For a while there, we were looking at, is Nick Benito a complete bust? I think going into this year, and it was one of those things, you just never heard his name. You never really saw him on the field. When he was on the field, he really didn't capitalize on any opportunity. And so when he became one of the starting, defensive edges there was a lot of worry in my mind for what he was going to do. But I think you saw that he did enough. Now, I think, we have got to find a way to bring in, if I could pick any position for the offseason, I would think, I would want a rusher, because I think that that really, I think, ties into the run game as well. If you can get a guy that can get in the backfield consistently and bring that pressure to the quarterback, the running back, that overpower the offensive line, it makes the guy on the other side of the line there look even better too, right? So it's a win-win, and then you can rotate Cooper and Benito out if that's what you wanted to do. But I think that'd be a starting point. But to me, it goes back to what you're saying. Along the whole line, I want more bodies. I want people that are maybe, higher ranked and have better stats when it comes to stopping the run. Just because how many games did we see where the other team was getting 4.5, 5.5 yards per carry, and compared to our 2 or 3, which was disappointing in that regard too, right? Especially when you have an offensive line that was playing together so consistently throughout the year that you would have hoped that we would have had some more success in the run game. But I think if we're going to stop some of the bleeding, a lot of the bleeding was coming from the run game and stopping that run game. It just never seemed to pan out for us this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll see. I know, all right. Now I wish, we're going to miss Jared very much, over the next year. But one thing I miss him already for is because, I want to talk about the inside linebackers finally. Not because I'm gonna cry the downfall of our defense because they can't cover tight ends, but I don't think that they were very good at stopping the run this year.
Nope.
And I think that you see Alex Singleton break the team tackles record, and I want to see that stat next to his failed tackles this year.
Yeah.
I want to see the tackles that he tried and those got broken. I want to see times where he was out of position. I want to, I feel like that's the player that you get with Alex Singleton, in addition to all those tackles, 7 or 8 yards down the field. Because, he's got good closing speed and pursuit speed. So, he can run down a play from the backside and get a tackle. But, man, he was giving up a lot of missed tackles. He was not a great run defender this season. And, if it's going to be him and Jewel again back in there playing inside linebacker, you're going to see more of the same next year.
Yeah. I think when it comes to the offense, the biggest thing, obviously, as we talked about for like 25 minutes, was the quarterback. But when it comes to the defense, I think there's a whole lot more room for improvement. Whether that's people, players back there understanding Vance Joseph's system, and maybe having another offseason to really, reflect on everything that happened this year. Vance Joseph having time to kind of look back and learn from things on his own side and create a better plan for next year. I don't know, but if you don't really do anything to address these major issues on defense, which were mostly up along the front and that middle of the defense, you're going to see a very similar result next year, where there might be games where, we're doing really well. And then there are going to be games where we just don't. And I think I'm going to go ahead and pull this up now, so that we can look at next year's opponents here.
Also, guys, I know losing to the Raiders sucked at the end of the season, but one thing to note, we get a third place schedule now instead of a second place schedule.
Yep.
So that's the tiebreaker goes to the Raiders there. Oof, you still got, you got the AFC North. That's
yeah. And so when you're looking at teams that run the ball well and are very good offensively, look, you got the Browns. And I'm, not sure who the quarterback for him is going to be next year, whether Deshaun Watson comes back. They're paying him all that money, which I think, as Spotty was saying last week, if you guys don't like Russell Wilson's contract, you should look up what Deshaun Watson's contract is, because it is way worse.
It baffles me that the Russell Wilson trade is still in the conversation for worst trade in the NFL when the Deshaun Watson trade is still right there. It's just it's right there, guys. It was like the year before. Okay, anyway.
I'm right there with you, man. Look, the big rumor right now is if Russell Wilson does leave the Broncos, the number one team that people are talking about him going to is the Steelers. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm calling it right now. if we play against Russell Wilson next year, we're going to lose that game. I just have a gut feeling that he's going to come out, he's going to show out, he's going to drop dimes 30, 40, 50 yards down the field, left and right, and we're just going to be like, what? And then people are going to be like, why did we get rid of him? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Yep, but absolutely. No, he's going to do the Russ magic.
Oh, geez. So I don't want to think about that too much yet, but that's, those are tough games. Like, I think when it comes to the Falcons, definitely the Panthers, those are two winnable games at home. The Colts, depending on how they do during the offseason, how much they bolster their team up. But you got some tough road games, going to Baltimore. Holy crap. Going to Cincinnati, with a healthy Cincinnati team, you're definitely going to have probably a primetime game versus the Saints, just because the Sean Payton reuniting with the Saints there. The Seahawks just always seem to have our number, man. I don't know what it is. Like, why?
Well, it's always tough to play in Seattle. And then, of course, you've got the Jets road game. And I don't think the New York fans are going to forget what Sean Payton said in between now and then. I feel like there will be some very vocal feelings about that. And if that defense is anything like it was in 2023, playing against them on the road is going to be a special treat, and not in a great way.
Special treat.
Yes. So,
Look, it's going to be a very, very tough season. Now, what we've seen this year is the Broncos aren't afraid of the challenge. Like, they can rise up to meet the difficulty of the team they're playing. The only issue was they also had a tendency to play down to the team they were playing, and that usually resulted in us losing. Right? Cough, cough, Patriots. Cough, cough, Jets. Cough, cough, Raiders. Cough, cough. Washington, just like, okay, so we have a tendency where, if we're playing a really dominant team, we'll tighten up, but we've got to find a way when we have an opportunity to beat a winnable team that we take advantage of that, right? And I would almost say that one of the big themes this year was just missed opportunities, not just in terms of playing teams that we should have beat, but you look at the number of turnovers we got, and we still could not score ton of points off of those. I mean, how many times did we get a turnover, even like on the 20-25 yard line, and basically in the red zone right away, and we were still settling for field goals?
So I would say that in some cases,
going backwards. So I would say just missed opportunities really killed us this year. And man, if we had just taken advantage of that just a little bit more, we'd be having very different conversation right now.
Right. Absolutely. And it would feel like a weird conversation, right? Because I think all of the problems that we're still seeing and have been talking about during the show would still be there, right? You're talking about 2 or 3 plays a game that could have turned 2 or 3 games that would have been very, very important. And outside of that, it wouldn't have been that different a season. We'd be in the playoffs right now, probably talking about going to Buffalo or some such thing to play a wild card game, and dreading whatever team it was, right? But, the issues that we've been discussing this whole time would still have been there. So, it's interesting and fascinating to look at it from that perspective and to kind of go back on the season in that way and say, what if? But, I'm almost glad it happened the way it did, just because to see this team go out there the way it's constructed now on a road playoff game, sure, anything can happen, but I feel like the chances of us getting blown out of whatever building we would be end up going to would be like 60-40. If that, like, I feel like, and that would suck. It would suck to end your season, making it all the way to the playoffs and then just getting absolutely embarrassed and proving you don't belong there. And then getting the 19th overall pick or something, or 18th. And and then you still have all these questions about Russell Wilson and Sean Payton next year and what the team's going to do and the run defense, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
So,
Look, this is probably, here's the thing. I know we've talked about pretty much in the entirety of Bourbon Broncos and OBS being a thing, that we're just in this rebuild, right? We're constantly in this rebuild, and I'm not going to rehash all of that and the ownership crap and, we're just a quarterback away. It's like, no, we're not, right? I am okay with us not making the playoffs this year, just because, frankly, I don't think we deserved to be anywhere near the playoffs. And like what you're talking about, I don't want to just make it to the playoffs just to get embarrassed, right? I want to be able to say, show the league like, hey, we deserve to be in the playoffs. Yeah, we have the Chiefs in our conference. Winning the conference is going to be an absolute battle every year, even if we're at our absolute best, right? The Chiefs are not going to have the pass dropping situation, like they had this year. You know what I mean? Every receiver out there is going to probably be catching 1,000 balls a day this offseason to make sure that is not a problem for him next year. So it's always, but you don't have to win the division to say we deserve to be in the playoffs, right? You can go in there, win a game, win 2 games. And then the conversation is, how deep in the playoffs are the Broncos going to make it versus, oh, look, they barely squeaked in, maybe there's a slight chance they win a game, but after that, it doesn't really matter. You go back to the Tim Tebow, yeah, cool. We beat the Steelers in overtime, and that was amazing. I will watch that video every single time it pops up on my phone. But then you never talk about what happened the next week when we go to New England and just got straight up blown out of the water, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't want to be in that position where we barely squeak in, or we squeak in and then it's like you're a team that doesn't deserve to be there. Like the Buccaneers. I look at the Buccaneers and it's like, okay, you're a trash division. You're the best of the worst in the NFL, basically. And, why are you even here? Dude, I still feel strongly that, just because you win your division does not mean you get a home playoff game. I think that's crap. I think if you win your division and you're a crap division and you win your division at 8 or 9, or whatever the Buccaneers ended at, and you're playing against a team that's, has 11, 12, 13 wins, sorry, you should be the away team, but I digress. Anyway, so look, I think the Broncos are at least 2 years away from being a team where we can say we're confident that this team's going to make it to the playoffs, and we can talk about how deep into the playoffs are they going to get.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it all, we talk about it being a critical offseason every offseason, right? Well, because to a certain point, they are all critical off seasons. But you're entering an off season where you're kind of in a stuck spot, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're $12 million or $18 million over the cap as of now going into next year. You've got a big question mark at quarterback again. You have 6 picks in the draft, 2 2 selections in the first 2 days. Mm-hmm. That's not how you rebuild an offense. That's not how you rebuild a team, especially since we gave the prediction that Sean Payton is going to try and mold this team in his own image this offseason, which all tells me you're going to see a lot of trades, or at least the Broncos are going to attempt some trades this offseason. You might see, prepare yourselves, Broncos country.
I'm ready.
No, I don't think you are. You might see them do something unthinkable. And by that, I mean trade Patrick Surtain.
Ooh.
I know.
Oh, my heart.
I know.
Oh.
I know. I do not think at this point that anybody on the team is a sacred cow if the Broncos got the right offer. Yeah. And from a team building perspective, trading your Cortland Suttons and your Justin Simmonses and, God forbid, your Patrick Surtains is going to bring you more ammunition to redo a roster if that's what you're trying to do this offseason, right? Yeah. If that's the strategy they're going to execute this offseason, then all of these players, these big name players, could be available at the right price, right?
And look, you got to make tough decisions. When you're having salary cap issues like we are, and this will be at least a 2-year thing before we can finally kind of breathe and say, cool, we have some maneuverability, you're going to have to get creative and do things like that. So I would just, posit to everybody out there, just like what you were saying, David, get ready for it. You might wake up to, a morning or 2 mornings or 3 mornings of just some bad news of, oh, we got rid of that guy. Like, oh my God, but why? And, it's like, look, these guys are doing the best they can with what they have, and they do not have a lot to work with. Okay. But that goes back to why I'm more comfortable with drafting a quarterback at round 1. This is going to be a learning year for him anyway, right? It's going to take him time to adjust to the NFL. CJ Stroud is such an outlier to what to expect from rookie quarterbacks. If you hit the jackpot, then great, but you expect there to be probably at least one learning year in there. So that's okay. Like, get our guy that we want to stick with for the foreseeable future, and then make smart moves. And even if that means we kind of have to tear down the team a little bit around him in order to set ourselves up for a better position the year after that. Okay, then, in 2 or 3 years, we can finally pull ourselves up out of this crap that we've been in. And honestly, this should have been a 2 to 3 year process to begin with, but the whole philosophy of the team was so backwards. And as much as I love John Elway and everything he did for the team, his philosophy for the team after Peyton Manning left was just so atrocious in terms of, we just need a quarterback. We're a quarterback away. And, you just see this constant turnover of coaches and quarterbacks. And it's like every year you're starting from scratch for a rebuild. So now we finally have the owners in place. We finally have a head coach in place. Now we got to get a quarterback in place so for us to actually start a full-on rebuild and do it correctly. And if it takes 2 or 3 years, but then after that, we're looking at getting, a solid first, second, and playoff spots every single year, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it, man.
Yeah. It's just, it all depends, right? Depends. Let's see what Sean Payton's vision for this team turns out to be. Let's see how it turns out,
Well, it's going to be interesting. And remember, guys, once again, make sure you're subscribed to us on YouTube and Facebook and all those places. We're not going to be doing the weekly Tuesday shows and the weekly podcasts and everything, but we are going to be pushing out content for you guys. When it comes close to free agency, we will ramp back up. When it gets close to the draft, we'll ramp back up and all that stuff. Whenever there's big news, you can count on us to kind of cover things for you guys. So make sure you're subscribed so you get notified when we do that. Other big thing, guys, as it's scrolling across the bottom of the screen, Tuesday, January 30th, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, a few weeks from now, is our fan appreciation episode. We appreciate everything you guys have done for us over the years, not just this year. And we want to sit down and just have a good time with you guys, right? We're going to have some games, trivia. We're going to be drinking. We're going to be giving prizes away. We're going to have some special guests. We're still lining up who those are going to be, but it gives you guys a chance to interact with them, and give you an option for that. And you wouldn't have pretty much anywhere else. But just a way for us to say thank you for everything that you guys do, because David and I would be sitting here talking about Broncos one way or the other, but it's a lot more fun when we get to talk with you guys,
Yeah,
So,
right.
David's probably sick of my voice already, but that's okay.
No,
he keeps coming back every year. So
every year I'm here. I'll be here next year, guys. Probably. I don't know.
You know what won't be here next year? Broncos current jerseys.
Oh, that's right. It's time for uniform talk.
I think it's time for some uniform talk. Now, guys, I don't know. It's a lot of rumor. It's a lot of just leaking. But one of the big things, first off, rumor is that the white helmets will be permanent. Sorry, David, the same color scheme from the leaks, the same color scheme will be the same with that beautiful navy blue and orange, but there's also rumor of another kind of trim color that's like the grayish blue. The whole thing apparently will be focused around like the mountains and the snow and ice and stuff like that. But I don't know, David, kind of like, what are you thinking about this? What are you envisioning?
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, and if the leak that we saw today come out was true with the mountains on the arms, I love that. And I do love the reversion to a little bit more of this style of font numerically,
Mhm.
which it looked like the new jerseys were featuring. They also had the numbers on the back of the helmets pretty prominently. But I don't know that I love the white helmet becoming permanent. Whatever.
Yeah.
Also keeping the new horse head logo instead of reverting to the D logo. I have heard rumors that they will run back a more authentic royal blue and orange, just Broncos throwback uniform from the
Yep.
early 90s
And
next
that'll
year
look
as well.
cool. It'll
Yeah,
look cool as an
yeah,
alternate. As an
yeah. As an
alternate, not a
alternate.
permanent. I don't want it as a
So
permanent.
I can forgive it if it's an alternate and you really are bringing back that beautiful royal blue that I've been craving for it. I think you guys are going to agree with me when you see it. I feel like everybody who's holding out on me now is when they see it in action, they're going to be like, oh, okay.
Well, hey, when those jerseys come out, when they actually announce them, you can bet that we're going to go live because we're going to want to talk about them. Because, I'm already telling you right now, I'm going to buy one. Like, I haven't even seen it, and I'm like, yeah, I'll buy it.
At least it is not a uniform concept that makes me immediately jump back and go, oh,
Yeah.
Like those Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniforms with like the digital clock numerals that they sported for several years. That was absurd. That was immediate. Like on day one, you knew those things weren't going to last.
Exactly.
And so these, at least, I can see them sticking around and not being so garishly bad that they immediately lose the fan base.
Well, and the cool thing is the owners through this whole process have been really in tune and really trying to reach out to the fan base, and primarily season ticket holders, but talking to the fans about what do you want? Do you even want a new jersey? And getting that input and that feedback from the fans. So, it's not like they're doing something just to create a jersey to try to increase sales. Like they want to do something new. They want to, I think it's time we need to bring in a whole new era to the Broncos. The Elway era was great. The Manning era was great, but that's in the past, right? I think giving us a fresh new look is to mentally see that and say, this is a new team. We're moving forward. We're putting all the old crap behind us is really good. And to be as in tune with the fans as they're trying to be. Well, I mean, I can't speak to what other teams have done and other owners have done, but it just seems to me like the owner really focused on making sure they create a product and create a jersey concept that fans are really going to enjoy. So, for me, again, the biggest thing is just the white helmet. And I'm just like, a permanent white helmet. I'm like, that might be a tough pill to swallow, but as long as it looks all good together, we'll see. So I don't know, man, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see what these guys put out, and all the other leaks that are going to come out over the coming weeks and months are going to be just as fun to follow.
Mm-hmm. Yep. One last, and we'll get to final thoughts here in a minute, guys. But let's do Brad's question real quick here. Brad, thanks for joining the show. Brad, I think so. At least in a Broncos uniform, I think you'll see him traded for a third round pick this offseason if they can get it, and that'll be the end of that.
Yeah,
honestly,
no, I'd agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I'm not like I don't hold anything against him. I know I've given him a lot of crap over the years, but I think this guy just needs a fresh start. And I wish him all the best if he does get moved off the team. But I think when you're talking about we're going to have to make some tough choices, I think that one is not as tough of a choice. If we're looking at, hey, what wide receiver do you want to get rid of? Jerry Jeudy would be on the top of my list, right?
Right.
I want to be able to see what Tim Patrick still has in a Broncos uniform before we decide whether he is done or not, right? And look, being out for 2 years, it's going to take him 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks to really kind of get back to the full swing of things, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Maybe he's just going to bounce back and, week 1 or 2, just kind of go off. But I'd really like to keep the combination of Sutton, Tim Patrick. I think what you're seeing from the younger guys, Little Jordan Humphreys, what you're seeing from Brandon Johnson, Marvin Mims, what you're seeing from these guys, I think it's time to start building the new future of the wide receiver core for the Broncos. And that means Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick, especially over the next couple of years, are going to be looking to be moved off the team, probably.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be the way it is, guys.
Yep. But let's do, before we do some closing thoughts, and first off, David, again, thanks for joining me here tonight. Appreciate you tuning in. Remember, guys, the Fan Appreciation Show, I'll say it again, January 30th, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, Tuesday night, a couple Tuesdays from now. You're not going to want to miss it. If you want some awesome Broncos swag, if you want some awesome Orange Weekly Bourbon Broncos No BS swag, we're going to be giving that stuff out to you guys for some, we'll ask you guys for like your favorite memories or some trivia questions. We'll all have our own unique way of giving out a prize to you guys. We might have a guest appearance by Jared, who might send us a video from, wherever he is right now. I'm not sure, but so we'll have some good times with y'all and some special guests and everything too. So just make sure that you go subscribe to our YouTube channel. That might be one way in which you win a prize, is if you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hint, hint. But it's going to be a good time nonetheless. I think this is the 4th or 5th year that we've done this. So, it's going to be a good way to send us all off into the off season. As the week after that, or a couple weeks after that, will be the Super Bowl. So look, we still got some football left to watch. It's just not Broncos. So, but yeah, so check that out and make sure you're subscribed and you're following us for all the off season stuff as well. But okay, David, let's do some closing thoughts, man. What do you think?
Well, guys, the off season is here. It stinks. But it's January. Free agency starts in March. It's only a couple of months away. Listen, I know. You've got, at least for me, the reason for optimism is clear, and that's that you've got a Hall of Fame head coach. And we'll see what flows from that. It's going to be a trying off season at times, I think. But I think it's going to be a place where we are in, I hope and believe this, guys. I hope and believe this, that in 2 years or 3 years, we're going to look back at this offseason and say, well, they did what they had to do to put the team on the trajectory that it's on now. Yeah. Other than that, guys, I got nothing for you. So I'm going to stick with that belief, I'm going to let that carry me for now.
I love it. Well, I think if anybody goes in this offseason just with the mindset of not expecting the Broncos to do much, they're not going to be disappointed. If you're sitting there expecting us to trade make 5 amazing trades and sign 6 or 7 amazing free agents and somehow get 3 additional picks and we move up in the draft and we get McCarthy or something like that, you're going to be really disappointed. Okay. You're going to be severely disappointed, right? It might be a more quiet off season from the Broncos, but it has to be, right? It has to be because of the situation we're in with the Russell Wilson contract. So, they've already made a tough decision by benching him the last 2 weeks. And I know there's a lot of rumor about, well, not necessarily rumor, but, players having shared with good friend of the show, Jeff Legwold, that they were really frustrated and were upset about the decision to bench Russell Wilson. But you're seeing that we're making those tough decisions, right? So they have a plan. And we may not all like it, but I'm going to sit here and trust that they're going to do what they are feeling is the best thing for the Broncos. And they're the ones getting paid millions of dollars to do it, whereas I'm not. So
right.
I'll just give my thoughts and leave it at that.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
But look, guys, it'll be fun nonetheless, when we get to those main points, and there'll be, a lot of talk for this next season of what to look for. And we'll be here for year 9. We said 9, year 9 of Bourbon Broncos and OBS. We're getting close to double digits, man. Whew. Can you believe it?
I don't want to believe it.
I don't want to believe it.
No.
Oh, geez. Well, hey, David, thank you very much for helping out again tonight. For everybody else who was tuning in, Jerry, Sean, Anthony, Brad, Ziggy, Clayton, Gary, all you guys that were here tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Shane, I saw you earlier as well, man. Appreciate you guys. And you're going to want to be here for the Fan Appreciation Show for sure. So thanks again, guys. I think it's time for us to head out, close out this season, and get ready for year 9 of Bourbon Broncos and No BS. So, David, Unfortunately, I think I have nothing else to say other than to end it as we always do. But very strong. Go Broncos!
Broncos.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah, I do what I like. Yeah, I do what I like. Sipping goose, if it's right, and I go with the flow. Yeah, I go with the flow. Yeah, I go with the flow. 'Cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go. In the zone, here I go.